month, NASM is giving you free courses. That's right, free courses each month just for being part of the NASM family. Learn about everything ranging from nutrition to strength, weight loss to stress relief, and everything in between. Click the link in the bio for information and to claim your free course before they're gone.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and today we're going to be talking about massage guns, percussion therapy, things like you've seen them out there before, things like the Hypervolt and the Theragun. These are tools that are really fantastic tools. They've been utilized a lot in the last few years. We saw them early on, these portable devices. So used to, they would have a device called the DMS, the Deep Muscle Stimulator. It was the only thing that was out there for probably a couple of decades. And then all of a sudden, these wireless devices started coming out, and boy, did they take over the industry. And so we're going to be starting a new concept within the NASM-CPT podcast, just a series within called Do They Really Work? So the first one in our series of Do They Really Work are going to be massage guns. Because I get the question all the time. I get questions about things and people ask, hey, Rick, what's the deal with massage guns? Do they really work? What's the deal with? And they'll ask these questions and then they follow it up with, do they really work? What do they really do? So maybe let's talk about what they are and what they really do. So when we talk about massage guns, we're really actually talking about percussive devices. And a percussive device is a device that actually has a retraction and then a protraction. So the head of this device will pull back and go forward and actually, punch you? It punches you. It percusses you. And it's a little bit different than vibration. And there's a lot of great vibration technologies that are out there that have effects on muscles. So, and that might be another do they really work that we can discuss in the future. But we're going to talk about these percussive devices because a lot of trainers are asking questions about them. They want to know what they do, how they help. So let's get into it. We're going to start this by actually getting into and really only spending time talking about what's out there in the research. And I think that this is going to be important because everything that we're going to talk about, I've got 3 research studies that are pulled up, and the first one is in 2020, and the next 2 are in 2021. So these are very updated studies, and they kind of have to be because there wasn't a lot of research being done on them really too much prior to that. So let's get into understanding what's going on. Now, the first one that I'm going to talk about, it's by Conrad with a K, Conrad et al. In 2020. And this is in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. And here's what they did. They took 2 groups of people. There's an intervention group. Intervention groups are the ones that they do the things with. So this is the one where, in this particular instance, they used a Hypervolt. And the other group was the control group, and the control group did not receive the intervention. So what was the intervention? 5 minutes using the Hypervolt on the calf muscles. The control group did not have the Hypervolt. So what they did, 5 minutes Hypervolt on the calf. And then after it was over, the control group had no difference in range of motion and dorsiflexion. But the intervention group, the ones that had the percussive therapy, the massage guns, and this one was a Hypervolt, increased range of motion by 5.4 degrees. And that's a big jump in degrees. Now, particularly big. So let's just say if we're just standing up straight, we want, you're going to get about 0 degrees of dorsiflexion. And your ultimate goal in dorsiflexion, your ideal is 20 degrees. So getting 5.4 degrees of dorsiflexion is a solid outcome when it comes to utilizing these devices. Here's what I found to be even more interesting. After 5 minutes of having percussive therapy done on the calf muscles, there was zero loss when it came to maximal voluntary contraction torque. So you hear these things like stretch, don't stretch, you shouldn't stretch, stretching before exercise, you lose strength. And that, according to the research, is really highly debatable in many instances, depending on things. But what I want to point out here is they did 5 minutes of hypervolt on the calves, and there was zero loss of maximal voluntary contraction. So I think these outcomes are similar to what we've seen in the research when it comes to traditional massage. Traditional massage increases range of motion and does not affect the maximal voluntary contraction torque. So that is study number 1, Conrad et al. 2020. Let's get into the next one. So the next one is Garcia-Solero et al. In 2021. Acute effects of percussion massage treatment on movement velocity during resistance training. This is the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. Well, what was done here? Again, you've got a control group and an intervention group. The intervention group in this particular one was a percussion device called the Theragun. So the Theragun was being used in this one. It was a G3 Pro and percussion between sets. So what they did was they did bench press, 4 sets of bench press at 70% of the 1 rep max. Then between each set, they had 3 minutes of recovery. During the 3 minutes, there was 15 seconds using a Theragun along the fibers of the pec major from origin and insertion, proximal to distal attachment. They went back and forth. Only 15 seconds during this 3-minute recovery. All right. As the sets continue, there's a loss of speed. People slow down. So here's what they found. The intervention group versus the control group found that the percussion group performed a greater number of total repetitions compared to the control group over the course of 4 sets at 70% of their 1 rep max. So the control group, 3 minutes of recovery in between sets, and they did not do anything but just hang out there. The intervention group, 3 minutes of recovery, but only 15 seconds of the Theragun, the Theragun Pro from proximal to distal attachment on the pec. And they did the pec as stated in the study because it is a primary mover when it comes to bench press. And they got more reps out of it. You got more reps. I find that one to be fascinating. I think they're both very, very interesting. So let's move on into the last and the final one here. So the last and the final one, it's another study by Garcia-Solero et al. In 2021, the comparison of interventional strategies to improve recovery after eccentric exercise-induced muscle fatigue, International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. And so what they did is they had percussion therapy, again, with the Theragun Pro, vibration platforms, they had massage therapy, and they had a foam roller. So they did the same thing with everybody, and they had them do eccentric exercises. You want them to get nice and sore. They're going to induce muscle damage and increase DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness, by doing these eccentric activities. And then they would do an intervention on one side, and they would not do an intervention on the other side. So they'd use the Theragun, a vibration platform, massage therapy, and they used a foam roller. Here's what they found. They found that they all seem to be pretty beneficial. But here's a quote from the study. Percussion therapy is shown to be an effective method of improving muscle tissue after eccentric overload. This new treatment option enabled us to obtain improved muscle recovery values similar to massage therapy, and it was more efficient than a foam roller and mechanical vibration. Now, there was a difference here, so I'm going to continue with the quote. The time dedicated to percussion therapy was only 2 minutes, while the manual therapy required 15 minutes to obtain similar results. So they got the same benefit from doing massage therapy as they did from using the percussion therapy, but the massage therapy took 15 minutes, and what the percussion device, in this instance, Theragun G3 Pro, did in 2 minutes. All right. I think that's pretty interesting. So, and then they go on to say the therapies used show positive effects on recovery in the treated leg compared to the untreated leg. And so, again, they did eccentric activities on both sides, made them sore, and then they had them do the different therapies there. And all of them were beneficial. But this is what they say. Quote, of note is that percussion therapy may have potential for muscle recovery. Nonetheless, more studies need to be determined which of these techniques is the most effective, both in the short and the long term, and which mechanisms of action may be stimulated in the recovery process. It's one study. It's one study, 10 people in each group. They did one study. And this is what they found. Now, between the 3 studies that I looked up on this particular therapy or intervention, not therapy, this particular intervention, all of them came out with positive responses. But I'll be the first one to say that a lot of times people don't publish on responses that aren't positive. So if you didn't get good outcomes, a lot of times they go, oh, that's crazy, not a good outcome. I'm not going to publish it because we want to publish good outcomes. We want to see an intervention and an outcome. So you might have things that show great efficacy, but what you never see is the studies that don't show the efficacy. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but I'm saying to be a critical thinker with this. But what do we see? And these are 3 studies that I pulled up that I found to be pretty interesting. And they all looked at things in different ways. I like the one that increased range of motion, but did not decrease your ability to produce force. Well, at least in the calves, in dorsiflexion for range of motion and for strength in plantar flexion. I think both of these are great with these other studies with Garcia Solero, where they're talking about recovery of the theragun, being able to get more repetitions in one study, and the other study, the different types of interventions that are there between percussion therapy, vibration, massage, and foam roller. And they all were good outcomes. And they think that we should study this more to figure out what are some of the best outcomes that could come about it. Now, I like it, but why do I like it? I like it because it feels good. I like doing it because it feels good. And this is something that personal trainers can do with their clients. So it's not considered to be massage. You're not doing massage on your clients. You're not putting your hands on your clients. So you can use this with your clients. And I don't think that there are any legality issues for you doing that in any of the states. So it might be a great opportunity to create an intervention that works for your clients that you can legally do. I think that's a great way to look at it. Why do your clients like it? It feels good. It feels good. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, especially after you're done doing a workout. If you want to take somebody to the table, you can stretch them out because partner-assisted stretching is something that you can utilize, but you can also use percussion therapy with your clients. And that might be something that you can utilize. Now, I'm not the person that says you should pick one thing and that's your thing. I think that you, just like training, have so many options that are available to you. Are you using the options that are available? And if it's partner assisted stretching, if it's static stretching, working with them, if it's active stretching and the cool down or even dynamic, but now you also are armed with something else that you know that the clients will like, that they can do it passively, which they love that part. They love the part where they don't have to do anything and just lie there, and that it feels good. And that now we can look at it and say, and we believe there to be some benefit. Also, there's potentially some benefit doing it between sets, which they may appreciate as well. So do they really work? Yeah, we think so. We think that they help with the recovery process, and we think that they also may benefit you when it comes to, first of all, not losing the ability to produce force. But in the second study, we talked about maybe even benefiting you in your ability to get a few extra reps in across multiple sets. So with that said, I hope that you found this helpful. And if you've got some do they really work questions, if you've got a device, a modality, a thought, does it really work? Do they really work? Shoot me an email, rick.richey@nasm.org, or you can hit me up on my Instagram where I'm most active and shoot me a DM at dr.richey, Richey, and let's figure out what we can talk about next. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.